So much talked about standardized test. Balik tayo sa norms and development of norms. So in the development of norms, crucial ang role ng sampling. Kaya kailangan din natin siyang pag-aralan. Though na pag-aralan na natin siya, review na lang to. So sampling. Sampling is the process wherein a test developer has targeted some defined group as the population for which the test is designed. This population is the complete universe or set of individuals with at least one common observable characteristic. The common observable characteristic could be just about anything. So, bakit gumagamit tayo ng sampling? May mga pagkakataon kasi na ang population of interest natin ay napakalaki. Ang dami. Kunyari, national based na survey, imposible naman na kayanin mong mag-conduct ng survey sa buong populasyon ng Pilipinas dahil hindi cost-effective yun. Kaya gagamit ka ng sampling to derive sample of population. Ano naman tong si sample of population? Si sample of population is a portion of the universe of sample deemed to be representative of the whole sample. So, hindi kukuha ka ng sample from that population, but that sample must be representative of population. That is, yung test na gagawin mo sa sample at ang results nun ay mirror or reflective lang din sa kung ang test ay ikakandak sa buong population. So sa next slide, may diagram ako na ipapakita. Itong diagram of developing norms from samples. So this diagram shows the development of norms out from a representative sample. There is that specific population that is the subject for the test. Then out from that population, a sample will be derived. So sa sample, dun mangyayari ang randomization at ang final testing. At pagkatapos ng final testing, lalabas yung scores. Tapos yung scores, iipunin mo yun, i-gather, at from that scores, magde-derive ka ng mga norms. So, what are the different sampling procedures? May dalawang type ng sampling. Ito ang probability sampling at non-probability sampling. Si probability sampling is the type of sampling wherein all that were included in the population of interest has equal chance to be included as a sample. Meaning, kunyari, may 100 ka na people under the population of interest na gusto mong pag-aralan, 100 lahat yung population, tapos kukuha ka ng sample at gagamit ka ng fishbowl sampling or simple random sampling. So, lahat ng 100 na people na iyon ay may equal chance of becoming your sample. Meron silang 1/100 chance na maging sample mo. So, si non-probability sampling naman is the type of sampling wherein not all who was included in the population have equal chances to be chosen as sample. Like for example, in purposive sampling, wherein you have that predetermined characteristic of the specific sample you wanted to include in your study. So, dahil may predetermined characteristic ka na, yung mga tao na kasali sa population but doesn't have those predetermined characteristic, wala silang chance na mag-include sa iyong sample. So, for probability and non-probability sampling, may different sampling procedures din. So for probability sampling, meron tayong simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and clustered random sampling. For non-probability sampling, meron naman tayong purposive sampling, snowball sampling, convenience or incidence sampling, and quota sampling. So, si stratified sampling, in case that a population has different subgroups, a sample that considered representatives from different subgroups is important to help prevent sampling bias and ultimately aid in the interpretation of the findings. If such sampling were random or if every member of the population had the same chance of being included in the sample, then the procedure would be termed stratified random sampling. So, ganito yan. Kunyari, sa University of Mindanao, gusto mong pag-aralan, gusto mong mag-conduct ng survey of among the students in the level of their anxiety. So, si UM, composed yan ng different students from different programs. So ngayon, paano ka kukuha ng iyong representative sample kung nag-i-exist ang mga different strata or stratum sa University of Mindanao, considering na merong different na programs. Ang gagawin mo, kukunin mo ang percentage ng students from that program sa kabuuang population, tapos yung percentage din na iyon ay imomultiply mo sa mismong number of students sa isang program. Tapos, ang result nun, yun yung magiging sample ng students from that specific program. So, may magiging parte sila ng sampling na kukunin mo. Ang example, si BS Psychology ay 15% ng kabuuang populasyon ng UM. So, i-multiply mo si 15% sa kabubuang populasyon ng BS Psychology student para makuha mo yung representative sample from BS Psychology. And gagawin mo rin yan sa iba pang program. Si purposive sample, if we arbitrarily select some sample because we believe it to be representative of the population, then we have selected what is referred to as purposive sample. Si incidental sample or si convenient sample is one that is convenient or available for use. This is so because of some budgetary limitations or other constraints. However, generalization of findings from incidental samples must be made with caution. Mahirap mag-generalize ng findings out from an incidental sample or convenient sample. However, there were some groups who were excluded from participation because they possess some exclusionary criteria. So, ito yung mga individuals from which wala talagang chance na makasali sa iyong sample dahil meron silang karakteristik na nag-debate sa population of interest mo. So, ang mga taong ito ay ang sumusunod. Persons tested on any intelligence measures in 6 months prior to testing. Persons not fluent in English or who are primarily nonverbal. Persons with uncorrected visual impairment or hearing loss. Persons with upper extremity disability that affects motor performance. Persons currently admitted to a hospital or mental or psychiatric facility. Persons currently taking medication that might depress test performance. And persons previously diagnosed with any physical condition or illness that might depress test performance, such as stroke, epilepsy, or meningitis. So now we are down in our discussion of the types of norms. So I included 7 types of norms, namely percentile norms, age norms, grade norms, national anchor norms, subgroup norms, and local norms. So let's take a look first on percentile norms. So what is percentile norms, or what are percentile norms? These were raw data from a test standardization sample converted to percentile form. In the previous discussion, we discovered that a distribution could be divided into quartiles or 4 equal parts, deciles or 10 equal parts, or percentiles or 100 equal parts. Si quartiles, ang kanyang median ay nasa second quartile. Si decile naman, ang kanyang median ay nasa 5th decile. At si percentile, in such a distribution, the x percentile is equal to the score at or below which x% of the scores fall. So thus, the 15th percentile is the score at or below which 15% of the scores in the distribution fall. It can be seen that a percentile is a ranking that conveys information about the relative position of a score within a distribution of scores. More formally defined, a percentile is an expression of the percentage of people whose score on a test or measure falls below at a particular raw score. So, may mga defining terms, definition of terms din na nagko-conflict or nai-interchange when it comes to percentile norms. Ito, si percentile at si percentage correct. Ano ba ang kaibahan nila? Si percentile is a converted score that refers to a percentage of test takers. Si percentage correct refers to the distribution of raw scores, more specifically to the number of items that were answered correctly multiplied by 100 and divided by the total number of items. So, take this as an example para mas maintindihan. Rae score in a test over 100 or Rae score in a test over 100 has an equivalent percent of 75%. This is Rae's percentage correct. Furthermore, Rae score belongs at the 90th percentile of the entire class. That is, those who belong below 90th percentile scores below 75% of the test scores. So what are the disadvantages of using percentile? A problem with using percentiles with normally distributed scores is that real differences between raw scores may be minimized near the ends of the distribution and exaggerated in the middle of the distribution. This distortion may even be worse with high skew data. In normal distribution, the highest frequency of raw scores occurs in the middle. That being the case, the differences between all those scores at cluster in the middle might be quite small. Yet even the smallest differences will appear as differences in percentiles. The reverse is true at the extremes of the distribution, where differences between raw scores may be great, though we would have no way of knowing that from the relatively small differences in percentiles. Developmental norms, a term applied broadly to norms developed on the basis of any trait, ability, skill, or other characteristic that is presumed to develop, deteriorate, or otherwise be affected by chronological age, school grade, or stage of life. Included to this category of norms is the age norm and the grade norms. Age norm, also known as age equivalent scores, indicate the average performance of different samples of test takers who were at various ages at the time the test was administered. So for example, the height of 10-year-old girls in Tagum City, the average IQ of teenagers aging 17 to 18 years old in the Philippines. If the measurement under consideration is height in inches, for example, then we know that scores for children will gradually increase at various rates as a function of age up to the middle to late teens. Another related term is mental age. The reasoning here was that irrespective of chronological age, children with the same mental age could be expected to read the same level of material, solve the same kinds of math problems, and reason with a similar level of judgment, and so forth. Grade norms, designed to indicate the average test performance of test takers in a given school grade. Grade norms are developed by administering the test to representative samples of children over a range of consecutive grade levels, such as 1st through 6th grade. Example, the reading skills of grade 5 pupils of Romagero Elementary School, the language learning strategies of grade 12 students. Grade norms do not provide information as to the content or type of items that a student could or could not answer correctly. Perhaps the primary use of grade norms is as a convenient, readily understandable gauge of how one student performance compares with that of fellow students in the same grade. Ang isang drawback lang nito is that they are only useful with respect to years and months of schooling completed. They have little or no applicability to children who are not yet in school or to children who are out of school. Further, they are not typically designed for use with adults who have returned to school. So, kunyari, at the age of 22, you've decided na bumalik ka sa senior high,